Because if you know what something means and you know how something feels, then of course you're never gonna forget it, right? Hey everyone, I'm here, and today we are gonna talk about remembering, storing information or pieces of music or a lyric and memorizing them and performing them from memory. As you can see, I put an elephant there because sabi nila, an elephant never forgets. So, nandyan lang siya. Performing from memory gives us artistic freedom and allows us to communicate to our listeners meaningfully. Like if you don't have music sheets in front of you or if you don't have lyrics sheets in front of you, you can look your listeners in the eye, so to speak, and convey your message to them artfully. Nang walang mga distractions. Because when you're reading, it seems like so many things are happening. You're counting, you're focused with the technical aspects of playing or singing. Yung mind mo, kalat-kalat siya, that you're hindered to give a most heartfelt performance. But of course, there are some who can do both. They can read and play memorized music and still play beautifully. So, kudos to you guys. They say that the most meaningful measure of attention is memory. And I think that it's the same in life as with music. We remember people or stages in our lives because at some point we were fixated and immersed in that moment and it had our full attention. And if the memories are beautiful, we choose to store them in some place in our minds wherein they will never fade. And we can always access that memory to evoke a certain emotion and we can remember them at will. And I think that's the same process if we're trying to memorize a piece of music. You know, performing artists are always committed to giving their audience a full artistic experience. And you'll find them in concerts with a repertoire of memorized music. We're going to be discussing some strategies on how to achieve memorization skills. Before we get into that, I want for us to understand that there is no one approach that fits all when it comes to memorizing. Memorization skills and memorization styles differ, and as we become more prolific in our craft, so does our methods evolve. Memorization is all about these two main steps, storing and remembering. So we have to devise a fail-safe plan to store information and then remember them afterwards. You may think that's it, but the key word here is fail-safe. So kailangan hindi siya mag-fail because of course you're gonna be on stage and the people are listening to you. So how do we do that? How do we give a beautiful performance without memory slips or without forgetting your words or without mumbling through the passages? Let's go through some of these suggestions. First, we have to perceive consciously. We have to be aware of what we're memorizing. Like, what's the structure? What's the design of the piece of music that we're trying to memorize? We have to know our piece inside and out, all the technical aspects of it, the dynamics, so that you know how to bend and break it when the time comes. I find it easier if we make a map of the piece. First, we make a structural map of the piece. What's the structure of this piece? Is it a song with 2 verses and then my chorus and then my bridge tapos mag-end sa chorus? Is it a typical piano sonata with 3 movements? Do you see patterns in the piece or do you hear passages being repeated over and over again? Do you hear a key change? Do you feel that the mood became different somewhere along the song? Yung structural map natin. Second, we make a technical map of the piece. So, for example, it's a song, it's a fast song. Where are the breath marks? Where do you breathe to make the singing easier? Yung diction mo, may mga certain words dun na mahirap bigkasin. So, you have to write them down so that you'll remember, mahirap tong sabihin tong word nito. So, I have to practice that and have to remember it. Yun. What's your tempo? How do you keep a steady rhythm? What are the finger numbers that you're gonna choose? You can write them down and build your technical map. And then we build our interpretation map. Like, what's the emotion evoked in this piece? What's the message we're trying to convey here? What are the dynamics? Like, where's the climax? Where is it come? Take note of all of these and build those 3 maps so that it's gonna be much easier for you to ingrain them in your memory, which is the next step. Because you've already looked at your piece in a multi-dimensional way and you already know all the layers. So with that, let's go to the next step. The next step is to ingrain all that you've perceived in that piece of music in your memory. And ingraining something takes your whole self. Visual, spatial, emotional concepts are going to be associated with the piece of music's design so that it's going to be much easier for you to remember certain passages or to remember some words. For example, a certain passage sounds ethereal to you, and then you now have a visual memory of like a sunrise or something, and then from there, you try to imagine that it's on the higher register on the piano, and then from there, you already know how you're supposed to attack that part of the piece, kasi, syempre, light touch, kasi nasa higher register ka. So as you can see, sunod-sunod na yung pagkakaalala mo because you've already mapped it. Some singers memorize the lyrics first, and then they try to memorize the melody, and then they try to listen to the accompaniment. Maybe it works for some, but I think taking it in as one whole complete unit will be more beneficial for you, especially when it comes to performance, because this way, it's not gonna sound foreign to you kapag ka naririnig mo na lahat ng sounds. And also, it's second nature to you already to sing it with the correct words and the correct melody. And at the same time, you can already feel the beat inside you and also hear the accompaniment. And everything just flows naturally instead of listening to each part ng magkakahiwalay, unless that's your intention. Like for example, you're trying to memorize your part and you are in a choir or something. Then you have sectionals, chamber music, and then you have sectionals. That means na-isolate yung part mo and then you have to play it on its own. Then, of course, it's gonna be beneficial. But the most important thing is that you know your part in relation to the totality of the music. Another way to ingrain something in your memory is to feel the essence of all your musical passages and to know the depth and the meaning of the text or your lyrics. Because if you know what something means and you know how something feels, then of course you're never gonna forget it, right? And not just that, you'll be able to reinterpret it in every performance. Another important thing is to locate your phrases. Know where they start and know where they end. And after that, understand the whole idea. Memorize them per segment and then connect them smoothly by slightly overlapping them mentally until you're able to merge them seamlessly. Okay, for this example, let's use Shakespeare's first few lines of Hamlet's soliloquy. So, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and by opposing end them. How do you memorize that? Applying yung breaking of segments and then slightly overlapping. First, memorize to be or not to be. That is the question. Okay, first part. If we're gonna break it down. Tapos next, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer. Habang sinasabi ko, to be or not to be. That is, habang nandun na pa lang ako sa that is the question, mentally, because I already memorized the next line, mentally, I'm already on that line. So that's what I mean by slightly overlapping them, so that you can seamlessly merge them. Hindi yung parang putol-putol. Kasi kung piece of music yan, of course you have to go to the next phrase beautifully. Hindi yung parang abruptly or whatever, right? Or yung bara-bara lang. So the goal here is to memorize the segments and then seamlessly merge them so that we're able to memorize one whole piece na tunog continuous siya, hindi parang broken, broken, broken. Got it? Okay. Another way to ingrain is to write your lyrics down on a piece of paper or notate your difficult passages on a music sheet. Because this way you're confident enough that you can produce that from thin air and remember them at will. Enough to write it down even. And so after all that, we then nourish it and maintain and sustain all that information that we stored by practicing them. That's the only way to do it. But when you do it, you have to practice consciously and you have to be mindful. You have to be fully aware of what we're doing so that we know, like, if we did a good thing that we like, we can replicate it in our performance. We also have to experiment on different interpretations and different other ways to play our piece. This way, we can do absolutely anything with our piece. We can break our rhythms, we can sing it in any way that we like, and still go back to how it's originally supposed to be sung. Ibig sabihin, pwede mo na laruin. Know the rules so you can break them, right? So there you go. After fail-safe storing comes fail-safe remembering. And that completes the whole idea of memorization. And with all the strategies that we talked about, I'm pretty sure that we are going to end up with lucid remembering and memorization skills that we can bend at will and we can remember and have access to whenever we need it. And because we have mapped our pieces and we've memorized it in all its layers and that we know it inside and out, it's going to be more natural for us to make every fresh interpretation and to make every performance different, making it very exciting for the listeners every time. So, because of this, there's never going to be a dull performance. Just don't rely on muscle memory to get you through a performance because everyone knows that that is the weakest type of memorization skill. And if you happen to get into a memory slip because of that, then I suggest dapat napaghandaan mo na rin yan. I mean, not that we're preempting a mistake, but then, you know, sometimes mistakes really happen. And what are you gonna do about it? Pagka nandun ka sa performance, kalagitnaan. I'm gonna share some tips that I've actually done. When I forget something, I try to make up my own melodies in the same style of the piece that I'm playing. For example, I forgot a certain part because it has some jazzy tunes. I tried to just, alam mo yun, naglaro ako sa ibang mga notes. Kahit hindi naman ako magaling mag-improvise or anything. I think, pag nangyari na yun, halo-halong lang ng adrenaline and everything, and for some miraculous reason, I was able to make up some of my own melodies. So I do that until I get to a mental guidepost and remember where I am in my piece. And then, to try kong bumalik dun seamlessly. So, try nyo yun. Pero better if we memorize our pieces well. Or if you're singing and you forgot the words, what you can do is that maybe in the fashion of scat, the jazz scat, instead of singing the words, just pick a vowel and try to sing that vowel in different rhythmic patterns or melodies patterned to the song that you're singing or the beat that you have. So this way, para siyang tinailan mo, but in reality, inside your head, you're trying to look for that avenue na papasukan mo para makabalik ka dun sa nawalang kang part. So, improvisation is also very important, not just for jazzers or dun sa mga gusto mag-solo, but it also helps you to fill in some gaps whenever you get lost in your piece. So friends, I hope you try never to mindlessly practice because you're gonna build some bad habits that subconsciously hindi mo alam na nabibuild mo because nga wala ka sa moment while you're practicing. And that's gonna be very hard to undo. Sabi nga nila, diba, it's more difficult to unlearn something than to actually learn it. So, ingat tayo in how we learn stuff. So, to conclude, performing music from memory is a really beautiful thing. You can give your audience that full artistic experience, and you have artistic freedom, and you're able to tap into all the senses to convey a beautiful message artfully to your listeners. But before we get on stage, we have to really assess ourselves if we're prepared for a whole repertoire of memorized music, because of course we wouldn't want to sacrifice our art just for the sake of showing people that you can memorize, right? If you can read the music and perform it beautifully anyway. Because I feel like people are still gonna appreciate that more. Binabasa mo pero maganda yung pagkatugtog mo or yung pagkakanta mo. Kasa sa pumunta ka dun, sobrang feel mo, but then you forgot a whole chunk of that piece or something, right? So if you're not ready performing it beautifully while reading, and you're not ready performing it beautifully memorizing, then I suggest that we practice more. Only we will be able to know if we're truly ready or not, right? So, if you know deep in your heart that you've already exhausted all your energy into doing everything correctly, ensuring that you're gonna remember it and memorize it well for your performance, then you have to trust yourself. You have to believe in your work, and we have to know that we reap what we sow. So if we practice, then we give a good performance. And if we don't, then we have to practice some more. So that's it. I hope you learned something from this video, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. So thank you and good night.